Hello and welcome to this episode of the Glasgow Business Gameplan, where we speak to business owners and entrepreneurs from around the Glasgow area and get a bit of insight from their journey and their adventure on starting up their own business and taking it to where it is now. Today, we're really lucky to be joined by Andrew Dobbie from Made Brave. Andrew, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Thanks so much.
Brilliant. So, yeah, great to have you here. So let's just dive straight in and tell us a bit about your business.
I'm the founder of a brand and creative agency called Made Brave. So we're 12 years old as a business. I looked a hell of a lot younger 12 years ago. I probably aged about 24 years in the last 12 years. We help, I suppose, large global businesses turn their business objectives, or achieve their business objectives or opportunities using the power of creativity and all things brand.
That's excellent. It's incredible. And I've seen some of the brands that you work with. Are you allowed to tell us about some of the guys, these household names that you're working with?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's changed quite dramatically since I started the business. You know, when you start, you almost have to do anything for anyone at the very beginning. But as you grow and grow, you get more of a clear idea where you add value and the types of businesses that work well with you. So we're now pretty fortunate. To give you an idea, we work with clients like First Bus. So right across the whole of the UK, all the marketing you see for First Bus comes out of our studio. Then there's brands like KPMG, where last year we rebranded a whole business unit for them. And then being Scottish, obviously, and in Glasgow, you get surrounded by a lot of whiskey. So we do a lot of work for brands like Johnny Walker, most of the Scottish whiskies, Bunnahabhain, Tobermory, Deanston, lots of these kind of brands. And then we're actually, to sort of even out the whiskey, we do a lot in healthcare, believe it or not. So we work with brands like Pfizer, who we all know from the pandemic, and brands like Medtronic, who are the #1 healthcare device company in the world. And then there's a whole load of other clients along the way, but there's kind of some of the bigger ones keep you in action.
Definitely do. And you mentioned obviously that's where we are now, but that was not where it came from. So let's jump back that 12 years that you mentioned and tell us, where did Made Brave come from?
Yeah, so I studied graphic design. I'm 40. I've just turned 43, so I'm 43 now. When I was kind of 18, I studied in Glasgow and I studied multimedia systems. So I'm a very visual person. I'm a graphic designer. And when I left uni, when I was right at the beginning there, I was one of only a few in my course to land a job in the creative industries. Right. And I landed a job with Paul McStay, who was the ex-Scotland and Celtic football captain. He had just finished playing professional football at the time, and he hired me to build some websites and stuff at that time. And I stayed working with Paul for about 8 years at the very beginning of my career. And it was just a very sort of small micro agency, no more than maybe 7 or 8 of us at any one time. And when 2011, when my son Finn was on the way expectant, I had literally 1 wage in my bank, and I thought, what a great time to leave your job and start a business. And it was really, for me, it was money driven at the time. I was I needed to make some more money. It was a small company, and there's not always a way to earn more in the company that you're in. And so literally, I loved my job, but I needed to move and do something different. So I left my job just to become a freelancer, really at that time. So I stepped out as a freelance graphic designer, and very, very quickly, things sort of took off. But I mean, the very first year for me, I did baby photography. I was a photographer and a designer. So I did baby photography, I did wedding photography, and I was doing the kind of graphic design stuff. But very quickly, I realized that babies are a nightmare because they don't live by your diary or your schedule. Weddings are a nightmare because you've got to deal with people on their wedding day. And very quickly I realized I quite enjoyed the business side of design, and I seemed to have a kind of knack for it. And so in that first year, I went from me standing still in that kind of roughly £1,000 in my bank to 6 full-time employees. By the end of year 2, I went to 16 employees, and then it's kind of grown and grown and grown ever since then. And I've been on quite a wild ride. I've learned a lot, and I think when I started out, I knew absolutely nothing, and I've had to learn an incredible lot along the way.
And so when you say you learn nothing, is that into the aspect of the business, or?
Yeah, so Yeah, so I suppose at the beginning, I had my craft, if you like, right? So I knew I could design, I knew I could build websites at the time, and I knew I could pick up a camera and shoot stuff. So I'd learned that side. But often what holds a lot of creative businesses back is that they learn the craft and the skill, but they forget to almost marry up the balancing of the business side, the commercial side of it. And and I think looking back at my first year, I mean, didn't know what a balance sheet was. I didn't know what a profit and loss was. And I remember me and my ops director, Stephen, laughing. I think it was in the second year because we were like, yeah, so all that VAT, that's our money. And someone's like, you do realize the VAT's not yours. And, and so we'd been calculating that and our turnover and everything, but I think if you knew everything, you wouldn't probably go and do it, right? So the thing I always say to people, and if anyone's listening that's just starting out, is do not let that stuff stop you, because generally there's enough people that want to help you and you figure it out eventually. I mean, I'm still figuring out, reading balance sheets and things, but it comes after a while, and there's plenty of people to help.
So it sounds like obviously you made that leap. You got off to a really good start and grew. And was that year 2 that you said you obviously yourself?
Yeah, we were up at 16 full-time employees by second year. Yeah.
So incredible results and kind of success building on success from then. Have you? There must be some downs on this roller coaster as well.
Oh man, how long have you got? Yeah, no, I think it's definitely not linear. I'm sure we've all seen the visual on on LinkedIn, the one that goes up and then squiggles down and goes up again, back and forth. And yeah, no, it's very, very much that way. I think, the first couple of years probably really naively got us to that stage. It's probably, if you had known the numbers had been a little bit more sort of analytical about it all, I might not have taken the same steps, but that's probably what gave me that leap. Because I think some people get paralyzed by analysis and business models and plans, and we can't do this until that. And I think sometimes you've got to have a little bit of bravery and naivety to get you to these parts. But yeah, no, definitely we got there pretty quick. And then it's one of those ones where you go, people are like, so what's the vision? And you're like, well, I think I'm at my vision. I thought I had no idea I could get to this bit. And as the founder, as the CEO, you've constantly got to revisit and refine a new vision.
Yeah.
And that's often the hard bit. And then sometimes you get to a level and you go, wait, I've kind of built this bit wrong and something needs to be undone now. Or there's all sorts of stages you get to where, I remember being at when you're kind of 8 or 9 or 10 people, you're the leader, you've got a group of people in front of you, you come in the morning, this is what we're going to do, you go do that, you do that, you do that, you do that. But when you break through to like about 15 or 16 people, something dramatically changes, because there's now too many people for one person to direct. And you now go, right, well, I need you to lead these 3 or 4 people. And then that person might go, well, I don't want to be a leader, or I'm not good at a leader, and so suddenly these pain points come in, and this is where it's often hard to break through from 10 people to 20 people, or 20 people to 30 people was another milestone for me. And then even like 30 to 50 and beyond, all these different changes happen. And sometimes you've got the wrong people in the wrong seats. Sometimes you've built the wrong structure to what you thought would work for growth. And so yeah, no, I've made. I think someone said you're only successful when you've made all of the mistakes. So I'm still working through all those mistakes constantly.
Yeah, I see it quite a lot. People saying you learn more from the failures, but I like to look at it as you actually your success comes through the failure, not from it.
Yeah.
So you almost have to make that path and get through it and see everything that's going round about it. You mentioned there about having somebody had said to you, what's the vision for the business? And I feel like I've reached it. But then as the team's growing and you're breaking through those barriers from 10 to 15 to 16 to 20 to where are you now in terms of employees?
Yeah, well, we've had a pretty eventful few years. We've come through pandemics, we've scaled, we've reversed, we've come up, we've come down. So we've been at our peak, we were about 75 people. We're now down about 50 people in our current shape and size. So lots of lessons learned through all these things. But I think the important message often as well is that, like you said, it's not a linear path to growth. And sometimes you move to places, and sometimes it's not even in your control to what happens in the business. You're constantly trying to create a vision that feels right, that pushes in the right direction. But there's other things that happen, other variables, right, that are not always in our control. And I think for a lot of businesses, well, every business, the pandemic is one of those ones, right? And that's a big amplified, exaggerated version of what can happen. But at a sort of smaller level, these things constantly happen depending on which market you've chosen to sell to, what your clients do. You know, everything can be working really, really well, and then your clients go into restructure. And, you know, you've got a great team set out, you've got a great business model, etc. But then something like that can adapt and change. So, you know, I think one of the main things about entrepreneurship is that you've just got, you know, these things happen to you, but the people that survive are the people that keep standing up, keep moving forward, and then keep readjusting your vision as you need to, because it's not a once and done thing. And I think that's probably, you know, when people ask you at the beginning, of what's the vision? And you think it's one thing and I'm going to get there. No, I think it's a constant reevaluate all the time, you know, management meetings and board meetings. Does it need to change? And I think sometimes businesses fail because people don't readjust. They're almost too proud. I said I was going to do this and this is the way the business was going to grow, and they'd never change. But I think constant reevaluation of your vision is actually a good thing to do.
And so and I completely agree. As what we do when we work with business owners and we set that vision, and as you mentioned, it's quite difficult to kind of bring that out of people. There's an emotional tie-in, there's a personal tie-in to why you started the business as well. So it is something that we kind of reevaluate every 18 months, and you say, right, now that we're here, what are the other avenues that's opening up, or maybe what was on the last vision that we're going to actually just let's take that away. That's not, you know, a primary focus for us now. So from you having that process yourself, building the vision and then adjusting it as a business going, how important has that been to take the people on the journey with you?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things, and it's a big part of what branding is really essentially, is that, you know, when you're building a brand, or you're building a belief system, and that's what businesses are built upon. And tongue in cheek, they're a little bit like religions, if you think, right? Is that, you know, you've got a vision of where we're heading to, right? And then you'll have a figurehead to lead that vision, a belief, you know, someone to lead that way. You've then, you know, you've then got your values, which are much like the behaviors that you want to see within the business. Think of them as the commandments of that religion, if you like, right? And then you've got influencers who are your, you know, the people help shape that. I think you've sort of remind me of the question there, just because I've gone.
So just using the vision to take the people on that journey, and you're right, you know, you've got that kind of that.
Yeah, you've got to build a kind of framework for everyone, right? So the kind of, you've got kind of purpose that is like, you know, what we're doing beyond money that's going to get us there. We've got a vision of this is practically what that's going to look like when we get there. So everyone knows, right, we're heading in that direction. Then you've got those values, which become the behaviors you want to see within your group. They're also going to be used to attract and repel people from your business, right? Because we don't want everyone. We want the people that are fit rightly within our tribe, within our customer base or our team. And then, you've got, as a leader, you've got to be really consistent with this, and kind of, you almost have to repeat things until you're so bored of them yourself, because most people aren't listening the same sort of, with the same cadence that you think they're hearing it, if that makes sense. So your job as leader is just to keep doing this. And then in the middle of all this, storytelling is really powerful, right? You've got to kind of build a story. People like to be part of something. And so your job is to kind of build that narrative, repeat those messages, and then turn up day after day, but making sure to adjust as the world changes around you, not just running into the wild, repeating the same thing over and over and hoping.
Brilliant. And taking people on that journey, then, how much engagement do you get back? Because I love the point that you made there about we'll use our values not just to attract the right people, but to repel the people that we don't want to work with as well. You know, so I think it's really important when you build those values. I think there's 3 or 4 things that you, as the founder, are really important to you. There'll be sort of 3 or 4 things from within the team that they say, well, this is going to be important from us. But then externally as well, what's going to be important, what's going to resonate with the people that you do want to work with.
Yeah.
And bringing the team on that journey to, you know, to actually get people in the room and get them to open up and say, you know, what's important to you to work here, and then actually to follow through on that is
That's
quite
you're so right, and it's you've said a lot of really really great advice there, because it's it's when do you decide to do these things? Is it before you start a business? Is it into the business? Who's involved? Is it just you? Is it people? And my thoughts on it are, as the entrepreneur, the founder, you almost create the sparks of a fire, right? So there's got to be something, some sort of thing that people are going to believe in and want to follow, and you almost put your flag up, and that's usually people create that logo. That's why people, when they start a business, the same day they're in clip art, they're trying to create a logo because they're holding up a flag. Who wants to follow behind this symbol, right? And the symbol, and then they're going to tell a story of why you follow me. So you need to be, first of all, be capable of doing that, right? That's the first part. If you're going to be able to create a business, you need to persuade people to follow you. But then you've created the spark. But you're right, the business is bigger than the founder, than one person. And I remember with Made Brave, that first sort of 2 years, we just ran, by everything by gut, doing everything that we thought. And, another client, we've won here, another person's joining the team. Come on, who's joining the story? Running with that flag. Until in about year 2, we said, we've created something, but let's stop and codify it. And that's where we went, right, well, I started it because of X, Y, Z, and this is my belief, and this is what some of my values are. But why are you here? Why are you here? Why did you join? What do you love about this? And we listen to all of that. And that's essentially the branding process now. When we do that at big scale, we'll do that with big corporates now. We're asking hundreds of people, why are you here? What do you believe in? Why is this? And then what you're trying to do is distill it down into, okay, I heard this over and over. I heard that over and over and over. And the founding beliefs were this. So now let's take those, extend them out, so everyone feels like they've co-created. And then if you do that at the right moment, you build ambassadors or influencers within your brand, and they might be customers or employees or team members, and they feel like, well, my voice was heard here, and then they start to the wheel gets bigger and bigger and faster. It gets bigger. So
no, and you know what, you said something really, really pertinent in the middle of all of that, which is being a leader. It's about listening as much as it is getting people to fall in behind. It's really important that you're taking that feedback, and that's helping to steer the ship as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, your job is definitely double ears and one mouth. So
it's a difficult talent for a lot of people, though. I mean, it can be difficult to hear, particularly if it's against the grain of what you're thinking, or maybe if it goes against maybe something that you don't see the value in it immediately yourself. So to take it on board and apply it can be really difficult.
Yeah, well, I think that the reason it's often hard, and especially at the early stages as well, is that you're not just it's not just like you're not making a social club, right? It's usually comes with financial pressure as well, and risk. And so those two things hand in hand, and it's why a lot of people first of all hold on to things, and they're not good at delegating, and it's because they're scared. They've got like risk, their house is gone, their money's all in this thing, and you're trying to balance out. I hear you, but I'm scared to let go. But I think you've got to find that moment where you let go and empower people, because then you get the best out of them. Someone said to me, and if you've heard me speak on podcasts before, I'm sure I've said it, but someone said to me, if you're going to lead a company, your job is to have nothing to do. Eventually, right? That's not going to happen in the first couple of years, but eventually, like, you should have a better person for every role around you, and you shouldn't have anything to do. So when something lands, like today, if something jumps into my inbox operationally, well, I give that to my operations director, and they're going to be 10 times better at operations than me. If something marketing, it goes to a marketing director, and so on and so forth, so that there's actually headspace for me to go, right, well, I need the headspace to go, where are we going? What are we doing next? To be listening, but all the tasks are done by people that are much better. And I think, that's hard to get to, because at the beginning, and especially in the first year, you're doing every one of those roles. You've suddenly, your finance, your marketing, your operations, your all of the things, and you've just got to slowly peel them away. And a practical way to do it, if anyone's listening just now and they are in that place, is to write down, if you're in the very beginning, write down all the things that you're doing in one big long list, and it'll be huge at the beginning, and then go, create your dream job almost. So, right, what do you want to be doing? Like, where are your strengths? Like, for me, I am not good at operations, project management, putting things in order, but I'm good at creativity. I'm good at the sort of that sort of side of it. So I shaped my role into what I want it to be, and then it leaves all the tasks, and then I go, right, well, which one would I hire first? Which are the most priority? I can get away with doing this for a while, but then and then just peel them all away until you've only got the part that you love. Now, it's obviously not as perfect as that all the time, because people leave jobs and things, and suddenly you've got things that you don't want to be doing. But if you're always working towards that, you're eventually going to have a business rather than owning a job.
Yeah, brilliant. I completely resonate with the list, and what I like to do, we use a tool called the Skill Fun Matrix. Are you familiar with it?
No.
So it's basically it's a 3x3 grid. On the up axis, is that the X, is the skill of the job, and then I know I'm trying to remember as well. Along the axis is the fun element of it. So obviously the closer it is to the point of where the grids meet, it's maybe a low skill and a low fun role. So something that, whether it's for you and I, probably that's an admin type of thing. And then as you go out and you start to put all the different values onto it, you say, well, actually, these are the tasks which drive the most value in the business, but they also take the most skill. And that's as probably, well, I find, and you might find the same, that they're the ones that you want to be doing.
Yeah.
So we then take that and we break it down. We say, okay, so now we turn that into an hourly rate for that role. So again, if it's an admin role, it might be something. So it's easier for me at the start to outsource those admin type roles, those low value roles, which are still relative and important to the business. And it allows me to focus on, the things that bring the money in.
More strategic things,
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yes.
And the great thing now is we've got ChatGPT for a lot of those administration things, which I could only imagine what I would have had if I had that at the beginning.
So before we go down that route, then you mentioned about when you were speaking to the team and asking them what they love about the business. What is it that you love about the business? What do you love about Made Brave?
I think for me, I've always just been a creative person. So I think getting the chance to thrive around creative people, I love. I'm so inspired. I mean, I used to think I was a good designer, and I know I was a very average designer when I see all the amazing creatives that I get to work with. And yeah, I think that's for me. I think it's solving problems that don't seem solvable, but using really creative ways to do it. I think it's pretty fun, because you get people's eyes wide open to that's what we're going to do, and and getting to persuade like that. I mean, reality wise though, I get less and less of the creative stuff to do as the business leader, but I now use the brand and Made Brave's marketing as my creative playground. So that's why I kind of I've spent so much time on branding Made Brave as a company, because most agencies, they just when I started, they went, well, just let the work talk for itself. And the way I looked at it was, well, the work should talk for itself, first of all. That's the product or the service has to be world class. But if we're going to differentiate and we're going to grow faster, create a better business and a brand than anyone else, if I can layer on a great brand on top of that, and then in the sort of third Venn diagram, a great culture, I'm going to have a winning model. Whereas there's a lot of agencies that are just going to do great work. But over time, I believe that's going to work. So I gave my studio to my creative director to do world-class work, and he's got the autonomy to do that. Feels great, but I'm going to grow the brand, and I'm going to work and create a great culture. So it's one of those things to how you're going to differentiate.
Amazing. So it almost sounds like Made Brave is your number one client.
Yes. So that's my role as CEO and founder, is making sure that brand lives. My creative director has the clients, and of course I've got that responsibility, but he's got the sort of closer responsibility of that. And with that, you get a better chance of wider success, I think. Yeah,
amazing. So to take it forward, then you mentioned obviously things like AI and different technologies coming in, and we're going to make assumptions, but are you embracing things like AI into the business now, and how do you see that changing the way that maybe the business is shaped in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know it's changing everything, isn't it? And it's coming way faster than anyone thought it could. We're on that curve, that's a hockey stick curve.
Yeah. Well, the quote is it's never been as fast as it has in terms of the development of IT and AI. It's never been as fast as it has until now, but it'll never be this slow again.
I know, it's wild, isn't it? So, I mean, it's both extremely exciting and extremely scary at the same time, because it is making rapid change for everyone. I mean, I'm an early adopter on things. I'm first to buy gadgets, first to buy phones, anything, you know.
Sure.
So I'm kind of in a happy place in the sense of, you know, I was looking at it way before anyone was looking at it, but I'm also bloody frightened as well, because the level of change is wild. So but you know, I'm embracing it. I'm training my team on it. I've got a session next week to go through more things with them. I have ChatGPT open for pretty much almost every task I'm now doing. It's like having my brain times 100 now sitting beside me. And I think, you know, some people are scared of it, and I think you're going to have to embrace it. You know, what's going to come as a worldwide community, I don't know, you know, in terms of the impacts, ethics, all these things, but you know, practically in a business sense, it helps to remove so much administration, you know, just unbelievably. I mean, even, you know, I'm just thinking of some of the last uses I have. If I've got a new business call that comes in, or an inquiry and someone wants to meet me, I'm like, pasting in a website, give me market analysis of this client, talk about their competitors, talk about what strains or they might have as an industry, give me 20 sensible questions to ask them in a new business call. You know, you then record a new business call. You can then transcribe that, summarize that, create a brief. That brief, all that administration used to be hand done. That's all, you know, completely done. You know, you could then take that, give me the idea of a project plan, you know, summarize this into X, give me 3 briefs, put this out to tender. All of that stuff has gone away. But you can imagine that almost takes roles away as well. So because there's, you know, so it's, I think the people that survive or work better are those that have those strategic minds that are able to conduct it. But you know, if you're a young person listening as well, I would be getting right on it, because if you're sitting in job interviews and, you know, if I had 100 designers, you know, applying for a job, and I had one of them that said, yeah, I'm you know, it's a given that I'm good at design, but I've also been experimenting with all the AI tools. I understand all this. I've figured out efficiencies here. Who are you going to pick as an employer, you know, to take that job? In my mind, it's probably those people. So for young people, don't be worried, just embrace it. And if you're in a job already, make sure you're keeping up to speed with it.
You know, it's such good advice. My background came from food manufacturing, and as levels of automation came into that industry, the biggest fear was fear from within the workforce was that this is taking our jobs away. When the reality was, it meant that you had to upskill people to use the technology.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you're creating different opportunities for people. And you're right, the people that adapted and said, how do I learn to use the technology, were the people that then became vital to the business.
Yeah.
And the people who just decided that it was, you know, it was another, they basically let it be an excuse as to why they wouldn't progress.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately it went. But it's really good advice to just have a look at what's coming down the road. I am not an early adopter. I've not even got a Facebook page yet, so don't worry. So we'll get there. We'll get there. But I'm thinking as you're speaking now, and there's all these different technological advances, and your brand now is global with it, you know, in terms of clients that you're working with as well. And coming from a really you know, a really difficult place to start in terms of assets available to you, and I understand that you've pretty much bootstrapped the whole journey yourself. But if I was to flip it around, and if I was to say, Andrew, there's you know, a couple of million quid, go and build a creative agency that's going to dominate the industry, where would you start?
Oh, there's a question.
That's my job.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a tough time to know where to start, right? Because you know, when you're looking at things like, you know, when you're on your social feeds, there's loads of trends this year in terms of all the sort of fake CGI out of home stuff, right? Which is all in trend. So in one mind, you could say, right, maybe I should hire a visual effects team, some CG artists, etc. But because there's all this AI stuff about to appear, you're like, oh, would you do that? Because you know, are we at the stage where with OpenAI Sora that's about to come, we've all seen leaks of it and kind of bits that they're pushing out. Are we about to be able to do all that with human prompts? And so is that a strange place to put money? I mean, I think what we're always trying to do as a business, and I think if you were thinking about any business, is you want to move upstream as much as possible, right? You want to be at the consultative point. So for me at Made Brave, I'm not worried that Made Brave will disappear, but Made Brave will be in a different shape and different form, over the next couple of years.
Okay.
And I think if you concentrate on the tasks that get commoditized, right at the bottom, those are the ones that very quickly disappear, right? And those are the ones that get at risk when new tools, new software comes out. Think about web development or web design. You then end up with Wix, and you end up with these things, and they've taken away a lot of the bottom. But what always is there is that humans need to solve problems, opportunities, and they need to think and consider how they're going to do that, and then activate or do tactical things to do so. So with Made Brave, most of our revenue comes with strategic problem solving,
Sure.
and then not necessarily always doing the task that's going to require to solve the problem. We then pick the best of the best people in the world. So I think starting again, I would still have a very similar approach to that, but it took me 12 years to get there. When I started at the beginning, I probably started more tactically, and I've matured into this. The wise part is to be in the consultative part to then decide what the solution is. So I think from an agency perspective, I would still sit there, but I would just have the better chance of jumping straight in there rather than having to take 12 years of learning to get there. So listening to this, if you're thinking about an agency, you can skip that part.
skip the hard work. Yeah. Interesting. There's a story or a fable, I don't know how true it is, but that there's a young entrepreneur goes to a charity do, and he meets Warren Buffett and Bill Gates Senior, and he asks them all for a bit of advice in terms of, if I'm going to start something, what's the biggest bit of advice? And every one of them says focus. Focus on whatever you're doing. So likewise, I'm putting you up there with these guys now, Andrew. But if somebody was come to you and say, I'm just getting started, or I'm halfway on this journey, and there's struggles or challenges or opportunities, what kind of advice would you give to somebody that's asking you for it?
Yeah, I think that's obviously great advice, right? It's come from great authority, but yeah, it is true because often entrepreneurial people are like magpies, and we like shiny things, and AI is out, and this is out, and this out, and this, and all over the place. And I think I've been victim to that as well in the early days. Once you get a little bit of success, you get lots of people coming to you, and they want to partner and do things and create things, and we'll start this business and another one and another one and another. And businesses that often fail, I think it's the founders, they've got too many plates spinning. So I think try your very hardest to stay focused on one thing. And I think most people give up just that moment too early. It's usually just over the hill that they didn't expect. And so to survive and to run a successful business and create something successful, it's just over there, and it's just a little bit higher than you thought it was as well. It's like, major success is it's not as difficult as everyone. It's difficult. It's difficult, but what I mean is it's not unachievable to everyone.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit higher, and it's just a bit further away than you thought. So you've just got to really focus as narrow as possible. Really be clear on who your customer is. Really be clear on vision. Figure out a story. These things are really, really important. If you don't have a story, no one's got anything to say about you. I'm bored to hell of my story, right? But I cannot get away from it. It's where my business started, £1,000 in the bank, a 2-week-old baby, and turned into a circus, right? But it gives someone, you can say it that quickly, and someone can say that to someone else. And if you don't have a story, well, I've got nothing to say, so I'm going to talk about someone else. And so when you've got milestones in your business, I always say to people as well, don't underestimate what part in the story does that play. And so think about everything you're doing, a PR launch, an office move, can you turn it into a better story than it is to let other people tell it? And document everything like, I just have a little desktop folder, and, take pictures of different parts of the journey, and think about in 2 years' time, you're going to be on stage or on a podcast talking about your story, and someone's going to want to see version, you're going to have to create a narrative. If you don't have those pictures, they're going to talk about someone else's story. Someone else has got that opportunity. So you need to keep building and building that kind of momentum.
Brilliant. Yeah, really like that. Thanks, Andrew. You started Made Brave out of necessity to increase your income.
Mhm.
And I'd imagine you've done that, but I think that the journey you've been on has also given you different opportunities. Is there anything that you look back on and you think, I never thought I'd be standing here doing this as part of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so thankful for the position it puts you in.
Mm.
Leading a company. I think I've so far this year I've been to about 9 different countries, and I would just never have been able to do that financially before. And so it gives you all sorts of opportunities to kind of see the world and get to experience things. And the best creativity comes from when you've got the best amount of input in here, and
Yeah.
then you put things together that shouldn't belong together. And so me traveling the world fuels a better Made Brave and a better creative person. And so it's really cyclical. But I think maybe a nice message for people here is that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. And you don't need to feel like you're a failure if you're not doing it, right?
Mm.
Because what a lot of people don't say is it's also really fucking stressful. A lot of, like I was saying to someone the other day, I feel like I've got an open loop, right? That just doesn't get to close because you've constantly got a risk thing, you've got a financial thing, you've got this worry all the time, and
Yeah.
you don't often get to turn off from it. It's pretty difficult to do, and it's for some people it's okay to be in a job, be employed. That might be the right thing for your heart, your soul, your makeup. For other people, freelance is the right thing, and
Mm.
sort of having some flexibility and freedom around that, but not scaling a thing. And then for others, yeah, building teams, running companies, leading teams is the right thing for them. But I think don't feel pressured if you're listening to this to go, I've got to get to that because that's not
Mm.
necessarily success, and it's a different shape for every single person.
Oh, yeah, so good because success is defined by the individual, and I
Hmm.
think that's really important not to focus on, as you say, the external motivations that might be there. It's that intrinsic motivations equally
Hmm.
is probably more important actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, so really nice. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for sharing that. You mentioned that with all the technological changes and everything, that the next few years of Made Brave is going to look a bit different. What does the next couple of years or 5 years of Made Brave look like?
Yeah, well, we're just moving. We're about to move. I don't know when this goes out. Actually, there's a press release coming out very soon. And another story. We're about to move from our home in the East End of Glasgow. We're moving into the social hub in the centre of Glasgow,
Ah,
which is
brilliant.
a big new mixed hospitality venue. So it's a kind of blend of like student halls, hotel, event
Yeah.
spaces, and we're moving in as the anchor tenant in amongst a whole co-working space with them. And I think for me, I'm excited about this because, obviously pre-pandemic, I'd fitted out a 7,000 square foot office.
Sure.
Literally finished it about a month before the pandemic. Terrible timing. And this is the other thing comes with business. We had put a significant amount of money into this space. But like I mentioned before, you've got to keep adapting, and we're in a new world now, and the way we all work is different in terms of how we come into the office, how often we come into the office, how teams work together. And so when I saw this social hub space in Glasgow, this is how business needs, for me, feels like it needs to be done much more within a community, around other people. And so we're about to make that shift. It's going to change things like our culture, how we show up, but it's also going to change how we service our clients. The social hubs, 17 hubs all around the world, so we can service branding differently and move around the planet differently. So yeah, and I suppose with the kind of the AI stuff, you could sit and get worried about it, but I think you just got to keep embracing it day by day, keep looking at it day by day, and figuring out what it does to what your clients need, and what it does to your processes,
Yeah.
etc. But yeah, I just got to keep on being creative, keep on being positive, and then standing up every day and walking forward as you got to do in business.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for sharing. And yeah, good luck with the new space. Sounds really
Thanks so much.
exciting. It'd be good to see it sometime as well. So,
Absolutely, come for a visit.
um, just before we finish up, people will now be, if they're not already aware of Made Brave, which I know a lot of people are, but if they want to find out more about you, more about the business, how do they find you?
Yeah, well, I'm very busy on LinkedIn, so just search my name, Andrew Dobbie on LinkedIn. But you can get me on Instagram, Dobbie Andrew. or Maybrave website, maybrave.com, or search the handles and you'll find the same thing.
Amazing. And some people might find a bit of a surprise when they go looking for you, because you've got a celebrity follower as well, don't you? Or a few, actually.
Yeah, so me and my son Finn have a TikTok page called Entertaining Dad. So we had a fun last year because we blew up on TikTok. I think we had about 250 million views across our videos, between TikTok and Instagram. And we've been on an exciting journey. We got sponsored by a camera company called Insta360. They make 360 cameras.
Yeah.
And we started creating all sorts of fun content together. And one day they reached out and said, Will Smith is going to recreate your video and react to your video, then recreate it.
Yeah.
So next thing we know, we had Will Smith on our feed and all the fun and games that came with that. So if you want to check that out, just search Entertaining Dad over on TikTok and you can see some of that.
I'll have a look at that. That sounds amazing. So yeah, brilliant. Andrew, I really enjoyed today. Thank you so much for your time.
That's all right. Thanks for having me.
Sharing your journey as well. And yeah, we'll catch up soon, but wish you all the best for the future.
Perfect. Thanks so much for your time.
Andrew, thanks again.